It's a Weinberg Wednesday. If you've ever listened to Game Night or the warm-up, you know that we're joined by Dave Weinberg, longtime Eagles beat writer, of course, has covered local high school sports as well in the area for a long time. And as all guests, he appears on the Boardwalk kind of hotline for a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. Just left the beach, so all was good.
Well, obviously, you were having a little bit more sunshine in your day than I am because I've been inside most of the day. And when I came in, it was downpouring this morning. So,
Yeah, it's been raining most of the day here, but cleared up just in time. So I headed down about 2 o'clock and stayed there for a few hours. It was good.
Nice. So, obviously, people can check out your extra point columns over at 973ESPN.com. And, you know, with the Eagles getting back in camp, I thought it was interesting about the fact of, you know, the way this environment is right now with how, you know, there's no preseason games. There's a lot of stuff that you can't do like you usually do in a typical setting for the media at Eagles camp. It almost seems like it's a very unique opportunity for you to actually not have to be there and actually still cover the Eagles, because it seems like even if you're there, you're not getting a lot of information anyway.
Yeah, it kind of turned out for the best. Like I wrote, I was kind of first time I haven't been there in 28 years, but you know, I was a little down about it, and you know, first time since like 1993, I guess, and but it turns out I haven't really missed much. I mean, like you said, I can keep track of everything, you know, through the Zoom and the teleconferences and the updates that they give. There's a few reporters that are out there to watch practice, but you can't even you can't even go in the media room to write your stories. You have to go back to your car or drive home. You can't interview players. Everything is done via Zoom or a teleconference. So it's you have to really strange setup.
I want to know your thoughts on this whole. We were talking about this earlier in the day. Mike Gill was talking about with Hunter Brody, and I chimed in as well. This whole upper lower body thing that the Eagles are doing right now, I mean, is this the strangest thing you ever heard of? Because I feel like, you know, on the contrast, the NBA came out with a statement today saying teams are not allowed to have these reports anymore. They have to be explicit and specific with their injury reports. Meanwhile, on the flip side, the Eagles are going hockey, upper body, lower body. It just seems so bizarre.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I know apparently it's a policy with the entire NFL that was worked out between the Players Association and the league. I don't understand it. The Eagles have never been. Well, the Eagles used to be very forthcoming with their injuries when Andy Reid was the coach and Rick Burkhardt was the head athletic trainer. You know, they went out of their way to let you know how a player was feeling. You know, if they were injured, what was happening. I mean, Rick was actually the first one to kind of introduce the Liz Frank foot injury, and you know, he brought out a big diagram and explaining what it was and the history of it. And but now Doug Peterson really doesn't do that. This isn't really that far fetched from what he's been doing in the past. I mean, he would tell you on Monday if somebody was hurt, and then when you ask what was wrong, he'd say, well, we have to have more tests. But then he didn't talk again until later in the week, and you never really got like a true idea. I mean, you knew the body part, which is a step ahead from what they're doing now, but you really didn't get a lot of transparency. But you're right. This is ridiculous. I mean, lower body, upper body, that's just stupid to me.
Are you buying or not buying into the coaches like Jim Schwartz and Marquez Manuel talking up Jalen Mills?
Not well. I guess they really don't have a choice. I mean, they're the ones that decided that Jalen was going to be their new safety, so it behooves them to kind of pump him up as much as they can. I still have my doubts about whether he'll be able to handle the position. I'm still kind of befuddled as to why Russell Douglas wasn't the guy that was switched there, because he's clearly not fast enough to be a corner, but he's big and strong enough to play safety and even move down in the box the way Malcolm Jenkins did. I don't think Jalen's going to be able to do that. So I kind of have to reserve judgment. Now, unfortunately, you don't have any preseason games or even the inter squad workouts to kind of judge him. So we're going to have to wait and see. And they just better hope that he's ready, when they open the season at Washington.
I know it's just training camp, but is there a specific position or player that you are interested the most in during this camp?
Andre Dillard is the one. there's been a lot of pressure on him. They lauded him during the off season. Doug was, building him up the way that Jim Schwartz did with Jalen Mills about how he's ready to take over the left tackle spot. And so it's going to really, and even Andre has shown some confidence in the way he's approached it. He seems like he's really up for the challenge, but it remains to be seen. But that's a really key position for the Eagles. You have Jason Peters just waiting in the wings to take over if something goes wrong. I can't see them sticking him at right guard and leaving him there. So, but I'm kind of encouraged with the way Andre has handled everything, both mentally and physically, and I think he's going to be up for the challenge.
I wanted to reappropriate a question to you, Dave, that Mike Gill and Hunter Brody were asking previously, which is, do you feel like with all the stuff that's going on in the sports world right now, with baseball and this condensed season and the NBA and the NHL playoffs this month and no preseason NFL games, that does it feel like to you the Eagles have taken a back seat to all of that? Or do you still feel like there's still as much passion and energy for the Eagles in a typical August as there would be?
Maybe not now, but Philadelphia is a football town. This area is a football area. I think once the season starts, then all those other teams are going to take a back seat. I think it's fair to assume, though, that right now I think the Sixers and Flyers, especially being in the playoffs, I think that's kind of moved to the forefront of the sports world at the moment. But it won't be too much longer before the Eagles are back on top.
How invested or uninvested are you in the other three teams playing right now, personally?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm really rooting for them. I'm watching, trying to keep track of everybody. I mean, Phillies, it's even though it's only 60 games, it still seems like it's kind of like a grind of a season. And they're moving the start times around, so it's kind of tough to keep track. But I mean, with the Sixers and Flyers being in the playoffs, I mean, it doesn't get any more intense and interesting like that. And so, yeah, I'm pretty invested in both of those teams.
I know you're a baseball guy, so I wanted to know from you your take on this whole Fernando Tatis Jr. fiasco. Everyone seems to be drawing lines in the sand, and it's almost turning into like a political debate with sides turning into this whole thing with him hitting that grand slam the other night.
I have no problem with it whatsoever. You don't want him to hit one out, then throw a better pitch.
I love that answer. That's the best answer I've heard today, Hunter. Isn't that great?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, I threw out at Josh this scenario, and I just want to hear his opinion. If the score was, let's say it was 22-3. Now, that is a scenario where I say, you know what, the grand slam was probably not needed. But a 7-run game, you saw that happen last night with the Phillies, where they scored 7 runs in the 6th inning. So a 7-run game, you have Little League that has a 10-run mercy rule. We're talking major leagues. But let me throw this scenario at you where, say the score is 22-3. Do you see a reason to hit the grand slam there?
Maybe you take one pitch. I don't know. But I mean, you're not up to the league to bat on your shoulder. Are you going to take call strike 3? I just don't see you have to. You don't have to wait until 2 strikes to swing the bat, in my opinion. Maybe 3-0 would be a little kind of rubbing it in, but I really don't have a major problem with it, regardless of the score. Those are major league hitters. You're a major league pitcher. Get the guy out if you're really that concerned about it.
Why do you think some people are so intent then on saying, there's this unwritten rule and you're not supposed to do this and do that? I feel like sometimes, Dave, and maybe you can help enlighten me a little bit, and I've asked people this before, it feels like there's some people who just don't want fun in baseball.
Yeah, you might not be far off there. Yeah, baseball's by tradition kind of a stodgy. Most of the fans are over 40 or 50. You don't see a whole lot of younger people getting invested in it, and that's the reason, because there isn't a whole lot of fun. Players are very traditional in the way they go about it. Manager, same thing. It's kind of like golf in a lot of ways. That's why you don't see a lot of younger golf fans either, because everybody's so worried about upholding the traditions and the unwritten rules, so to speak. So, if baseball really wants to gain more popularity and draw in more fans, then why not hit a home run at 3-0?
Dave, before we let you go, again, on Weinberg Wednesday, follow Dave on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19. You can check out his extra point columns at 973ESPN.com. We didn't get a chance to talk about this last week because the news happened after the last time we talked, Dave, but Thomas LaManna is getting back to action, the Millville fighter, but he won't be fighting locally, so it's kind of a two-pronged question. Number one, how frustrating is it that LaManna can't fight here in Jersey? He has to go all the way out to Los Angeles to fight. And number two, where is he in his career right now, the state of his career?
Well, first question, I talked to Thomas for about 45 minutes to an hour, and he is frustrated because he's what you would call a hometown fighter. He's one of those house fighter, if you will. He draws people into the seats and sells a lot of tickets. He's one of those guys that makes Atlantic City such an exciting fight town, especially on the local level. You have guys like him and Anthony Juice Young, Isaiah Selden, and some of the other guys who draw a lot of fans, and they're good fighters as well. So yeah, it is frustrating for him. But by the same token, he was saying that he's kind of looking forward to fighting without any fans in the stands because it kind of reduces the pressure. He didn't have a whole lot of he didn't have to worry about selling tickets. He doesn't have to worry about impressing the crowd. He can just go out there and do his thing. So by that measure, he's kind of looking forward to it. The second question is that he has no room for error here. I mean, he's 28-3-1, but every time he's kind of so-called stepped up in competition, it hasn't gone very well for him. He's coming off a loss in his last fight, kind of a disappointing effort that he lost by TKO. He's still ranked 13th in the WBA junior middleweight rankings, but he absolutely has to win this and win it impressively in order to stay relevant, because there's too many young fighters out there that are willing to pass him by if he doesn't.
Dave Weinberg, veteran Eagles beat writer, Hall of Fame boxing writer, joins us every Wednesday for a Weinberg Wednesday. As all guests, he appeared on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Dave, always appreciate the conversation.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me, as always.